you know, that one right there, you know, where you're by the beach.
There you go.
That's a
there
nice
you go.
one.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, here we are in San Antonio, you know?
Yeah, live from the Riverwalk.
Is that Coco? Wait, is that Ramiro? Is that Coco? What is that?
That's my Coco background. Yes,
that's awesome, man.
It's festive. I like it. It reminds me of Market Square too. So
yeah, we need Judy with like the missions in the background or something like that.
Yeah.
Or Southwest Military Drive. That's so exciting.
Take that. Mine would just be the library in the background. Be like that red color.
Yeah, nobody wants to see all my brainstorming on my whiteboard behind me.
Yeah,
so not very interesting.
All the secrets are at.
Yeah, it's all the secret sauce over here.
I think that our background for Launch SA should be our offices, because we're never actually in the offices. We're just always outside of them. So
it could be the restaurant hallway.
Exactly. Yeah. That'd be.
The bookseller.
Well, mine should probably be like just whatever local taco shop is around then, because
nice.
That's usually when all my business is done.
Nice.
Can you please do that? I'm in here, so I need a good visual guide on all the best taco shops. Hey, Ryan, I did go to Thai D.
Oh yeah, how was it?
Yeah, the good call on that, man. That was awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. I dig it.
Who just went to Thai D? You, Matt?
Yeah.
Matt, Thai D is awesome, man. It is.
That was Ryan's call out. I'm like, dude, like, tell me where the good food is. So he's like, Thai D, give me the Indian place. I haven't gone there yet.
That's fine. Thai D is like probably one of the better. Actually, it's, in my opinion, is the best Thai restaurant in town. But you wouldn't think that driving up to it.
No.
Yeah.
That's
like,
okay.
That's like a gas station.
Classic hole in the wall right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can go right next door and buy your, paraphernalia or whatever. So.
Mm-hmm. After you pick your kids up from Nimitz Middle
Exactly.
School.
Right down the street.
Oh
yeah. That's a great area.
So I'm just gonna, whenever Daniela tells me we should start, that's when we'll
You're
start.
good. Yeah.
So start.
Yeah.
Okay. It's already streaming?
It's already streaming and recording. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome.
All right, so we'll have to edit that first part out. All right, guys, thank you for joining us. This is our second session of the day for San Antonio Entrepreneurship Week. If you're unfamiliar with San Antonio Entrepreneurship Week, it's an opportunity for us to really revisit perspectives, find new perspectives, engage in inspiration, and then also celebration of what it is to be an entrepreneur. Normally we'd be in person, but this year has obviously been quite the set of issues all the way around. And so I'm really excited for the topic that we're about to cover today, and the people that we have, the brilliant minds that we have really tackling that discussion. But before we get to that, I just want to make sure that you all know that you'll have an opportunity to provide feedback at the end of the session. Feel free to share the live stream out. It's on YouTube for those of you that are watching there, or through Zoom for those of you that are in the call or going to be joining in the call soon. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat so that we can address them when that time arises. Otherwise, our theme for this year has been resilience. There's so many things that we're all trying to overcome, and our topic for this session is focused specifically on resilience with some really, like I said, amazing minds that are really impacting some specific areas within the city. But I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Beto Altamirano from IRYS to kick us off. Thanks.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for that introduction. And I think, when we think of this Entrepreneur Week, we think of in-person, conferences and engaging and those dynamics. But today is different, right? But I think we should also celebrate this different, right? I mean, it's a way for us to go digital and record, this conversation, and also spread it and share it with our friends. Today's conversation is going to be one that I'm very interested in. We have a set of rock star panelists, but I'll start with the topic, the subject matter, and then I'm going to introduce the panelists. I'll actually let them introduce themselves. I'll talk about who they are, but I want to get a little bit of perspective and a little bit of background from them because they have great stories and they also are doing great work here in San Antonio. The name of the session is Resilience and Reinvention, focusing on the strengths of your area. So while San Antonio is known as one of the nation's largest cities, it is also known internally here in San Antonio that it's a city of sprawl. And within that sprawl, San Antonio has areas that once thrive with people in commerce. However, as years progress, new technologies, corporate consolidation, relocation, aging populations, and other response reasons began to affect how those areas mature. And we have to reinvent our city. So with that, we also have the COVID-19 situation, right? So how is our city gonna rebound? And how is our city gonna move forward as a community and thrive in this new environment, right? And with that, we have great panelists. We have Judys Canales, Executive Director of Southside and First Development Corporation. And we have Ramiro Gonzalez, CEO of the Westside Development Corporation, Matt Brown, CEO at Centro San Antonio, and it's going to be moderated by me. I work with IRYS, which is a company, it's a technology company here in San Antonio. And so I'll start with Judys. Judys, can you tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, and why you're so passionate about the work that you do?
Thank you, Beto, and I'm so honored to be a part of a group that is doing some great things here in our city of San Antonio and Bexar County. My name is Judys Canales, and I serve as the Executive Director of Southside First. I was actually born and raised in Uvalde, I could say it both ways. Highway 90 West, at just about an hour and a half here from San Antonio. To fast forward, as y'all can probably see with my mask, I'm a graduate of the University of Texas at Austin.
Hook 'em horns.
But then right after UT, I came to San Antonio for graduate school. And I went to Trinity University, and I have a master's in urban studies from Trinity, which was my launching pad just a few years ago, and having been an intern with the city of San Antonio in economic development department.
Oh, wow.
So fast forward, yes, I'll admit, a few decades to my career, having worked in various cities around the United States, but half my career has been in Washington, D.C., working with the federal government at the Department of Agriculture, but also at HUD. I have both urban and rural experience. And so working now here in San Antonio, and to get started on your points, Beto, which is working for the South Side, a young organization, I think in comparison to my peers. I've been on board now a year and a half as its executive director, and it's been fantastic because of the South Side and what it represents and how it has the deep rootedness and the history, because truly, and the fact that World Heritage and the 300 years and all of the history that is surrounds us, this is where, to me, this is La Cuna. This is the birth.
That's right.
The birth of San Antonio being right here on the South Side.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Judys. Thank you for that introduction. Ramiro, can you talk a little bit about who you are and why you're so passionate about the work that you're doing in the West Side? I think you're on mute, Ramiro. Okay, so we'll go back to Ramiro right now. Matt, can you tell us a little bit about the work that you do, who you are, and why you're so passionate about the work that you're doing right now in downtown San Antonio?
Yeah, happy to. I wish I could do a good Roberto impersonation, but I can't. So you're just stuck with me. To give a little bit of my sort of background, I'm probably the newbie here. So I was born and raised in Los Angeles. So I got an earring, I got tattoos. I don't know how to surf, but I come from LA, and I've lived. I went to college in DC. I went to law school in Philadelphia. So everyone can boo at that because I know all the bad jokes about lawyers, and then lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico after law school, and then Berkeley, California for about 25 years. My wife and I have been together for 30 years. Our daughter, Isabella, is in Boston now, going to college. And a couple of years ago, sort of as a kind of a moment in time to really kind of think about what I and we as a family want to do next, I decided to get out of the private sector. So I'd stopped being a lawyer pretty early on, and I started a toy company. And then that started me into my career in the private sector, where I've started a bunch of companies. I was a senior VP at Scholastic, the Harry Potter people, and I ran a division for them called Klutz. I was an early person at a really cool educational technology company called Leapfrog. So I helped grow that company. So I've been, kind of an entrepreneur, either from the ground up or entrepreneur inside of larger companies. And then a couple of years ago, decided I really wanted to give back to community and serve community. And my first opportunity to do that was to be the director of economic development for Santa Fe, New Mexico. So my wife and I had a lot of roots there, and after 30 years, and the mayor and I got along, and he said, "Hey, why don't you come? Like, you want to help community? Get over here. Like, help Santa Fe." And I learned two important lessons there. Is that I love community development, economic development. So I proved that I love that to myself, and I love being with community leaders and working together to sort of transform and change and evolve, cities. And I hated working in the government. So I love that there's people that love working in the government and they're awesome at it, but for most entrepreneurs, people warn me, they're like, this might not be the spot for you. So at that time, my wife and I were looking to move out of the Bay Area and find a new place to put our roots down and make home. And we had visited San Antonio in the past, and we got this call from a recruiter out of the blue, and like, "Hey, there's this thing called Centro down here. You should check it out." And we came here, and Centro, it was an amazing opportunity. So it was an amazing opportunity to come serve community, and at the same time for Sarah and I to build a new home. We quite literally bought a home, and my wife's right over there now, like demoing it and gonna nice. Build a new home, or bring back an old home to a new state. So our commitment, my passion for this is to serve community and try to build a more humane and playful world. So that's my personal mission, and the mission and the vision from Centro San Antonio is, how do we create every day a more beautiful, prosperous, playful, and welcoming downtown? And we believe if we do those four things consistently, we can help create a greater opportunity for everyone who lives here, works here, plays here, and the downtown increasingly is the downtown of everyone in San Antonio, and not just for the people who live nearby.
Amazing. And by the way, I love your background.
Thanks.
Se puede essay. It's pretty cool. It's really cool. I need to get one of those backgrounds.
It's actually, I just found out it's on our website. So please download them. That was inspired. One of our staff members actually created that the heart and started tying them all around downtown as this guerrilla piece of expressing her love for everyone when COVID really hit hard. And so people have been picking it up and putting these hearts all over the place. So please do. They're all yours. They're free. Spread the love.
Awesome. Someone else who has a really cool background right now is Ramiro. It's Coco. I think it's Coco from the movie, right?
That's right.
Ramiro, how are you? And can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're so passionate about the West Side?
Sure, absolutely. So my name is Ramiro Gonzalez. Sorry, my internet connection is a little spotty, so I had to jump back on. But I'm the interim CEO here at the Westside Development Corporation. My background is I'm born and raised here in San Antonio. I went to Edison High School, because that's a question every San Antonio is going to ask, is what high school you went to. So I went to Edison High School and graduated from the UTSA degree in political science. I worked for the city of San Antonio for about 15 years, left in about 2017 to start a real estate fund. I've always kind of dabbled in real estate, and my kind of background mostly centers in real estate policy and economic development, of course. And so I started Real Estate Fund, kind of got that going, and then just kind of got that yearn for community development again. And, you know, kind of sort of by happenstance, kind of found myself here at WDC. I was kind of looking for a consulting opportunity, just kind of get back into community development. And the interim opportunity presented itself, and I was ecstatic about it. You know, I have so many roots of my family history and growing up on the West Side as well. My grandparents have a church over in Menchaca. I remember playing over at Woodlawn Lake and watching all the fireworks. I mean, my entire you know, childhood was really on the West Side. And then you know, I was in terms of just San Antonio. You know, I was born at Santa Rosa Children's Hospital downtown. I got married in the Josky Pavilion at Brackenridge Park. So, you know, I like live and breathe San Antonio. So it's an amazing opportunity for me. You know, when I was at the city of San Antonio, the last half of my time there was spent in downtown redevelopment. So I really got an opportunity to really to kind of dig deep into community development and how can we leverage the assets of our community to benefit even our most vulnerable populations. And so being able to kind of carry that and all my other kind of experience into the West Side and look at, you know, how can we make how can we make the West Side stronger? You know, there's so much opportunity, so much, it's so rich in culture and such hardworking people that just love each other. And there's just this strong sense of community. So how can we take all the elements of that and just build upon them, make them stronger? That's really my passion. And kind of bringing people together who are smarter than me, just kind of like this panel. And I get to pick the best parts of you and just kind of put it together and say, hey, what if we did this? What could that look like? And so I love kind of being that instigator and then finding smarter people than me to kind of execute it and make it happen. That really excites me. And so I'm very passionate about the discussion today and talking about how can we kind of pull that together for the benefit of not only the West Side, but our entire community. Thank you for having me.
No. Thank you, Ramiro, for joining us. So I'll start with the first question, you know, for the panel. It's about, you know, something that Ramiro just mentioned about, you know, what he sees in the West Side and the opportunities, for example, right? Let's talk about those opportunities, right? Let's talk about why, you know, what makes, for example, the South Side so special, Judy? What makes the South Side special, and what are some of the opportunities that you see in the South Side today?
Certainly, as I started to describe the South Side and the fact of the history and the fact that, you know, UNESCO, the United Nations, for example, deemed our World Heritage Area as a UNESCO site, that right there is part of the true recognition of the value of what came before us as our forefathers and our mothers from the past, and how we have cherished that and have preserved it, but at the same time, what can happen around it, and just the notion of that, and how in my work regarding Southside First, working through the city of San Antonio over this past year and a half, and developing two neighborhood studies that showed that both communities, meaning the Mission San Jose area, which is around the World Heritage, as well as the other area, which is that we worked on, which is Quintana, adjacent to Port San Antonio, how we were working closely, and we have been working closely with the neighborhoods. But at the same time, we were drawing out the business aspect and working with our small businesses. So it is that notion of community development. In total, there are 7,000 small businesses located on the south side of San Antonio. And so that therefore, what we see is generational businesses. That is part of the opportunity, is how to make sure that those businesses have that information to come forward and to step up, but also to stay in operation. Those are the jobs here in this area. And what we've also seen is that there are what I would view as perhaps people don't completely understand that the South Side has opportunities for prosperity and wants to seek it. They want to see changes. And so our study that Southside First conducted, which was a door-to-door, person-to-person, it was not one of these survey monkey instruments. It was in person. This was something where the people spoke and they said, yes, we want to see, better, we want to see a variety of restaurants, because certainly there are fantastic restaurants here already, but they want to see variety. They want to see a variety of businesses. It's basically, they've been having, if they wanted to find something different, they would have to go to other parts of town regarding business opportunities. And so that's what I see here is you've got land, you've got that openness, and you have las ganas. You have the people who themselves have this entrepreneurial spirit, which are the 7,000 small businesses that I've just mentioned. What Southside First does is work to nurture both that current, retain, and respect the businesses that are here, but we're also working, and we work constantly with Launch SA on this front, which is to bring those future entrepreneurs into fruition.
That's right. Those are great opportunities that you highlight, Judith. So now let's go with Matt. So what are some of the opportunities that you see today in downtown, Matt? And what makes downtown so special? Which, by the way, I spent a lot of time working, in the downtown area with my company, so I get to experience downtown as well. So tell us a little bit more about some of the opportunities that you see, right, and what makes downtown San Antonio so special. And this is coming from someone who has been here in San Antonio for how long is that, Matt? How long have you been in San Antonio?
It's my 1-year anniversary today.
There you go. So you bring some fresh perspective. There you go. It's made for this panel right here. But yeah, give us a little bit more insight into your experience.
Yeah. So okay, a couple things. I think similar to both what Judith and Ramiro said, everything that's special about a city is first and foremost about its people, right? So, and as someone who's new to the city, and I've been fortunate, as I mentioned, to live other places and travel a lot, I think that San Antonio is the most welcoming city and group of people I've ever been around, and it is to me a cornerstone or a foundation upon which the brand and the essence of the city resides, and it's an advantage to the city in the way it can prosper into the future. So I want to call out this incredible asset of the human beings being so welcoming, and welcoming is very different than being nice, right, or being friendly. Like, welcoming is, I'm going to open my door for you, right? Please come in, right? Mi casa, su casa. Like, that is not everywhere. In fact, it's not most places. So number one. Number two is we do think of ourselves in the whole downtown area as the cultural epicenter of the city. I mean, in addition to having the northernmost mission, we have Main Plaza and historic Market Square. We've got San Pedro Creek. We have, and I'm going to call it the San Antonio River, because every time you say San Antonio Riverwalk, people think that's for tourists, and the river is for all of us. So, and there's 13 miles of river that very few people use, and there's like this little loop that's full of human beings. So, but actually, that's an underutilized resource. Is the river itself and how it bisects right through all of downtown. So that is an opportunity to take advantage of as a community, and maybe even for some economic development. I think other opportunities, infill. So it's related to what Judith was saying, but we've got about 41% of our downtown is covered in surface parking lots, and the future of downtown has to be that almost all of those surface parking lots are gone, and they are turned into spaces that are much more useful for people who want to live, work, and play downtown. So whether that is, all kinds of amenities, office space, co-working space, affordable housing. I mean, the list of infill, right, is quite large, but we have a huge infill opportunity. Talking to Ramiro on real estate, I'm like, dude, huge infill. And then we've got a lot of strength in a couple of different industries. So that, because Beto, you're already in the tech industry. In Port SA and Brooks, there's different parts of tech that they're going after, but we've got kind of like software and different types of, I think, IT. So we've got these clusters that are growing, which is great, and Tech Block's been great. I think we have a huge opportunity in the food sector, both in consumer packaged goods and in food service. CIA, so the Culinary Institute of America, there are only 3 of these in the United States. There's here, Napa Valley, and New York. And that was a big coup. So that, that's in the Pearl. So to me, that's sort of the north end of downtown. Arts and entertainment, of course, and we have singular places here, right? I mean, there is only the Majestic here. There's only, the Alameda Theater here. Like there aren't 2 of them in San Antonio. There's not 2 of them anywhere. They're only here. The Whitty, the zoo. So there's lots of things downtown that are singular, and that's an advantage. And it's an advantage that we're trying to figure out how just to get the rest of San Antonio to understand. Like, here's all the cool stuff here. Like, come on down. And then finance, of course, is big. And I think the creative economy, and beyond like architects and lawyers, but really the artists, the creators, the graphic designers, the inventors, the person who's going to come up with that harebrained idea that's going to turn into like the next Netflix or whatever it is. I think not just like downtown, but all of us, like the West Side, the East Side, like to me, it's sort of the greater network of us in the kind of core of our city. This is where that confluence, right, and the collisions of people can happen. And that's what places like Silicon Valley and Boston and Cambridge have done great. They've created that sort of density and the experiences that have people collide. So I think that there's more for us to do on the investing in that type of infrastructure, those types of amenities, those types of services. So more people like connect together, not just digitally, but after COVID, a lot more without masks in person. So I'll stop there, but lots of opportunity. Built first and foremost on the people, second on our culture and our heritage that's not just historic, but is being made every single day, and these industries that are around us that we could really take advantage of and grow more into and become real pioneers and leaders in not just in Texas, but everywhere.
Thank you, Matt. That's great insight. And you mentioned the food industry. I often, talk to Ryan, who's here with us on the call, about the food industry and how downtown could become an epicenter for that.
Well, Ryan and I are on the same page, so we're gonna go for that. Here's one statistic to inspire any entrepreneur listening in. The entire U.S. GDP, right, annually is around $20 trillion, and 24% of that is the food industry. Think about that.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It is enormous, and we've got great players here already. So whether you're, if you're at home making some incredible jam or salsa, whatever it is, and you're like, I could do that, to we have HEB, the 11th largest privately owned company in the U.S. and an unbelievable pioneer in supporting local entrepreneurs in the food industry. It's like, we've got Tyson Food here, Frito-Lay, like we got big players, and we got culinary, we have all these assets in this enormous economy. And so to me, it's actually for me, I'm almost more bullish on that than tech, because tech is, but food, everyone has to eat food every day. Everyone does not have to buy a new phone every day. So
that's true. Look, I'm a tech entrepreneur and I agree with you.
But you still have to eat. Like you still got to eat, every day. You can have a Snickers every single day.
That's right. Thank you, Matt. So now let's go to the West Side. Another really cool place. I love, that we have representation from the South Side, the West Side, downtown. Talking about the West Side, what are some of the opportunities that you see there? You talked right now about the people, the entrepreneurial spirit, and that drives you and motivates you. What are some of the opportunities that you see for the next, let's say 5-10 years, and how can the Westside capitalize on those opportunities? I think you're on mute, Ramiro. Yeah, there you
Hear
go.
me now?
Awesome.
Okay, good.
Yeah, perfect.
So you said it. The entrepreneurial spirit is huge on the West Side, and it's funny because it's in many ways it's because they had to be for so long, and this kind of gets into the resiliency of our areas. But for the West Side, they were kind of counted out, kind of told to build a house with just a hammer many times, and they figure it out. And so many of our businesses on the West Side have been operating with limited resources in many cases and just making it work. I see the massive opportunity that we at Westside Westside Development can be providing is, consider all the resources available to you now and how much bigger that idea could be for you, how much bigger this business could be working for you, how many different locations you could be having. Sometimes I think we tend to limit ourselves in terms of businesses, in terms of, okay, it's making money and it's making me money, so it's good. Well, let's talk about thinking bigger. What would it mean if maybe you could have a second location so that you have more of your available time, and this is actually creating more jobs in your community and giving you a better quality of life to do more in your community, perhaps. And so having those conversations, I think, is a huge opportunity, because there's so many of those businesses that kind of are just at that point that, man, if you just had a little bit more, it'd be big. Of course, COVID has kind of put a damper on that, but that's where you want to build in more of that resiliency so that they can weather this and come back even stronger, perhaps. And so I'm very much looking forward to those kind of opportunity to have those conversations. The West Side is also home to 2 lakes and 3 university campuses.
That's
right.
And
I mean, it's insane to think about the placemaking opportunities on the West Side. We have the Guadalupe Cultural Arts District. We have SAEC coming over soon. The arts scene, the culture scene on the West Side.
Which is huge. I mean, you drive
huge.
around the West Side and you see so many murals and beautiful art.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a unique place, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to really enhance that. We also have some of the cheapest land around downtown right now, and so it promotes huge opportunities for how can we leverage that property for the community benefit, right? There's the other side of that, which is trying to make sure that whatever does happen on the West Side in terms of our property, that we're making sure that it is maximized for community benefit. And that's really where we want to be able to stand there and kind of advocate for our community, but immense opportunities on the West Side.
Amazing. So we heard about, the opportunities that each region represents, right? As mentioned, it's a city of sprawl, right? Meaning that there's these pockets, right, where its own innovation is happening, right? But with innovation and opportunity also comes the challenges, right? Just like any city faces. Let's talk about the challenges, right? And with those challenges that you see in your own communities, you add this extra layer, right, of COVID-19, which was so unexpected, right? And is hitting us hard, right? I mean, just yesterday, we saw the numbers, the highest numbers of reported cases in San Antonio was recorded in the last 2-3 days, right? That's alarming, right? And so let's talk about, the challenges that you see that were already in place, right, in your respective communities. But then let's add the layer of the COVID-19 virus, and how is your region, how is your area rebounding? What are some of the the tactics put in place so that the businesses that you collaborate with, right, that are members of your ecosystem, thrive in this environment? Let's start with you, Judith.
Sure, Beto. And when we talked about this as a part of this conversation, what first came to mind for me, and this would be back in March, is how while we were still frankly trying to make heads or tails of what is this thing about this COVID business. And so, yes, people have been sheltering. There would have been the occasional, of course, visit to a grocery store, a place that's essential. Back to the point made earlier, we got to eat, agreed. And I saw, respect for the use of the mask. I happen to be working today out of Bibliotech South because of the work that we're doing on some funding for small businesses. So I have to respect the location on that. But people here on the South Side were wearing the mask and have actually continued to do so. So I view that as part of the resiliency aspect of, back to what I stated, we've got long history, long roots, and so these families are going to take pride in making sure that this next generation, you've got to put places, take care of yourself. But what I also saw about business, as we remember in April and then starting in May, when certain aspects were allowed because restaurants could still function if you made accommodations. I kid you not, the retrofitting that was occurring around the South Side, places that were never drive up, drive through, drive by, all had some aspect of, they put una carpa, they put a tent, something where you could go and say, yeah, man, I'm gonna go get my curbside. And they would ask you, by the way, do you need to buy any gloves or hand sanitizer? I would get those questions. Like, including my enchilada plate, I could also buy gloves. And so anyways, all that to say that's part of the resiliency. People didn't just fall apart. They really didn't. And that retrofitting to me was very important, because that was a big sign that that people were taking care of business in spite of these big challenges. Now, the point that I also want to make sure that is made, because it's always been a fundamental regarding business, is access to capital. So let's also remember something. We all saw the early, Small Business Administration, federal government, Paycheck Protection Program, the infamous PPP, and how it was relying upon an SBA product that required businesses to have usually some sort of banker relationship. That's how they were able to access those funds. Too many of our businesses did not participate, because you go back to the need for those banker relationships. The irony for us regarding Southside First is that we had been holding these events, what we call our échale gas, step on it, échale gas, go for it. To promote our small businesses here. We have been hosting some of these meetings with lenders and with other resources to help the small businesses. So it has become, the whole notion of access to capital became that much more obvious, because you needed it to be a part of that solution for the PPP. You see my point? You needed to have that relationship. So I go back to that as being one of the challenges. The other aspect, and I want to make sure that a point is made on this, which is back to equity. And this has been an area that too often has been left behind. But so we go back to, how can we make sure that this South Side area continues to get served, and to make sure that the resources are continuing. And I think the COVID put a big highlight on the fact that we need to continue with this type of investment and the whole equity lens regarding San Antonio and Bexar County.
Thank you, Judy. So the COVID-19 doesn't discriminate, right? It attacks everyone, all ages, all social, ecosystems, and specifically demographically everywhere. It's everywhere. When you look at the map that the city of San Antonio, the health department has put forward, right? The interactive map, you see that it has spread out evenly. It's everywhere, right? All throughout, San Antonio. And so, downtown is being heavily, also attacked by this virus. Matt, what are some of the challenges that you've seen that the businesses are facing, or in general, the ecosystem, the people that also live in downtown, and how are they managing?
Right. Yeah, and just building on, I'm sure I don't want to repeat, but everything that Judith says, and I'm like, yeah, like we're probably doing I have the same problem, so I don't want to repeat this. I'll just add other things, but broadly speaking, there's a systemic problem that, of course, COVID has revealed more. So in addition to things that Judith said, I'll take the point about kind of getting to the PPEs, and that is, I would categorize that as social capital. Social capital is sort of classically defined as the network of people that you know that can help you solve problems or take advantage of opportunities. And I think what this crisis is revealing is a lot of Main Street businesses, right? These micro mom and pop businesses have very low social capital, right? Like there's a whatever, national organizations for lawyers and for doctors and for architects, but where is the national organization or even the local organization for auto mechanics and hair salons? So there's a challenge and a need, and I think there are solutions to meet that need, but we have to aggressively and intentionally increase the social capital for micro and small businesses, as well as for historically disconnected and underserved and underinvested communities, because by not serving and investing in them, you actually deplete them of social capital. So that's a big one. Other things that are going on directly downtown, tourism has got slaughtered, right? So tourism is hospitality, third largest industry in our city. Downtown is the centerpiece of it, along with Six Flags and SeaWorld predominantly. And it's just a bloodbath. I think it's just terrible. And so what so that, along with Main Street businesses being at risk, we've done a couple of different things to respond early. And this has to do with both practical and psychological barriers, right? Because this crisis is creating a psychological barrier to like going outside and being together. So we run the PID downtown. So we changed what we do from just thinking about cleaning downtown to disinfecting downtown. So we increased the scale of our intervention downtown. So we used to clean like infrastructure, things that people touch 250 times a week. We do that 11,000 times a week now. So we can't tell people that we're safer and cleaner. We actually went and changed what we did. So now when people think or are thinking about coming back out downtown to work, to play, for USAA hasn't even reopened their building downtown. So what we decided is we needed to set the table. We needed to invest and change what we were doing so that people could have confidence that downtown is the safest and cleanest it can possibly, reasonably be. So that's something that we did. We changed all of our marketing promotions. So like with Judith, we did a lot of work with particularly restaurants to help them convert over fast, right? Support them and then market them, market, right? Because they can do all the takeout they want, but if people don't know that they're doing takeout. So we did that, and we partnered a lot with Visit SA. So Visit SA assembled an ongoing list on their website, but we have 100 and something ambassadors out on the street. And so every single day we would go look at every single restaurant and business and see what was open and do they have promotions. And so we would feed that in. So real-time data we were getting in and being able to market back out. And then we started increasing our advocacy. So working more with the chambers and figuring out like how to advocate for PPE and for small businesses. Like 501(c)(3)s were in the first round of CARES Act, but they were excluded. Like 501(c)(6)s, like my organization and the chambers and others were left out. So even like advocating for nonprofits to try to help them get access to these federal resources. And then another one for us is homelessness. So we do homeless outreach, and when the crisis hit, we were all very worried, and like Haven for Hope, I mean, all the partners were very worried about, like, literally people could be starving on the street, or COVID could just wipe out, so many people in that community. So we've really stepped up a lot of our work and interventions there. So yeah, I guess to summarize, there's changes that we did to affect the respond to the actual conditions, so that both psychologically and practically it is safe to come downtown when people are ready. And then we did work with small businesses to try to get them the resources they could, that they get access to resources they need to survive this. And then the last thing I'll say is that we're behind, we're starting, but like Judith and Westside and Ramiro, you guys are way ahead of us, but we've started a Main Street economic development piece of work, because what we learned is there actually is nobody downtown that has a strategy and an action plan to serve all of the Main Street small businesses. So we're raising our hand and we're starting to do that. So that was a big gap, and it hurt some of our small businesses. Some will suffer, some will not come back because they didn't have an ally, someone that they knew that they could turn to, right downtown. And hopefully they were, we try to get them to Lyft and Southside to other people, like, hey, Sage, like there's other folks, like, so we try to connect them, but there was just no one downtown that was really there for them when they needed them. So that's a way that we could increase resilience into the future, is that there's actually, an organization that's focused on that.
That's right. That's right. I think you mentioned, a lot of challenges, but also, some solutions, some to the challenges that downtown is facing, right? You mentioned, the ambassadors, right? The Centro ambassadors. I see them all the time, on the Riverwalk, doing diligent work, cleaning everything. It's really amazing to see how proactively, the city of San Antonio can be. And that's rewarding, right? Because anyone that lives in this area, is really thankful for that. So Ramiro just got quickly disconnected. I know that he was having some troubleshoot with Wi-Fi. We'll get back to Ramiro when he gets connected on some of the challenges and, for his community, and as well, how he's managing COVID-19. But I wanted to jump into digital, right? So we understand that, San Antonio, just like many cities in the US, are facing a strong digital divide. I mean, it is alive, right? That's not a secret, right? In the United States as a whole, the digital divide is very alive, right? And so with that, I mean, one of the issues with COVID is that a lot of students, for example, right, or a lot of people that are working remotely depend, right? They depend on these digital mediums. They depend on Wi-Fi. They depend on having digital literacy, right? And actually, Judith right now is in bibliotech, so it's like, this is perfect, right? It's like, the question is for you. But so what are your organizations doing, to better serve your communities in regards to the digital, obstacles that some community members are facing, right? And if your organization is not directly engaging in that, what are some of the ideas that you've heard from community partners that collaborate directly with your organization? Judith, you want to get started with this question?
Sure, Beto. And admittedly, in the sense of digital, we were already, and again, Southside First having been a young organization, we're still in a lot of development aspect. And so we evolved into, putting information, because it's still very much about the information, because that part has been constant. Get those solutions, get those resources to our community. And so, of course, one way, yes, is through digital. And so doing, now, and it's not novel, but it's e-newsletters, electronic newsletters, and email blasts and such. And yes, another aspect had been, we had to pivot because we were no longer able to do our Échale Gas small business workshops. I know, right? In person.
I love the name. I love the name. By the way.
It's funny because it really did take off. But so we've had to do Échale Gas webinar, and so yes, that is to pivot into using technology and and the online community and such. But I have to pause for a moment, because the aspect of the South Side that I have to respect, and remember I stated to you that we did our survey work, and when you've got the whole variety often of age groups, there is an age group predominantly usually older. I'm not trying to be ageist by any means, but who still are not as comfortable with how to do this regarding using technology for information. And so we were talking to people and go back to your old school phone calls and talk to people and explain how you can connect, because some of our next steps, because we're not done now with this whole transition, is we're going to have to go back to some of the paper flyers. I know it doesn't sound moving forward, where sometimes you got to go to tried and true methods, because you got to reach the people. And so it's a blend. That's the part that I just wanted to put forward. And I have to just state the way it is. It has to be a blend for us, because not everybody has that connectivity. Now, I'm a big proponent, as I just stated to you, about working here at the Bibliothèque. I think we need more of these kinds of accessible spaces. I think that one per quadrant doesn't cut it in a big city like San Antonio, a big, right. Edging towards 2 million in Bexar County. Come on now. I think that we need to think more strategically about the Bibliothèque library scenario as a place where people can go. And that's a challenge that I would just put out there. Another thing that I would say to you is, for the small businesses, and I've not been able to find the right person yet, but I'm going there, which is, I want to see a Geekdom del Sur, meaning
I like that. I like that.
Bring them,
and I like that. I like that name, Geekdom del Sur. It's really cool. Yeah, it's hip.
So we need to have that kind of incubator, aspect for the small businesses to be here on the South Side, that type, because then on the other hand, you've got folks who are quite comfortable with digital, but it goes back to the exposure. And there's been, someone that I know over at the Federal Reserve, Jordana Barton, that,
That's
has
right.
been a big proponent. We've, she and I've kind of partnered through the years, and has really put it out there. It's a real fundamental that the COVID, here we go again, has exposed. Remember I said access to capital? Well, here's the other one, which is the digital aspect, and having that connectivity available for those who want to.
Exactly.
If folks have to go to the McDonald's and go to a parking lot, and I'm just calling it the way I see it, because they're gonna go to the Starbucks, they're gonna go to places that have that connectivity, because there's nowhere else to go regarding hotspots. Come on now.
That's right.
The greatest country in the on the globe. We need to do better. And I believe that that's a big challenge that needs to be addressed. And I'm not pointing fingers as it's going somewhere else. I on a personal note, regarding our South Side, and I'm sure my other colleagues on this call, on this video conference, would agree that we all should be a part of that solution of getting that, insisting on that connectivity to be in our sectors.
That's right. And I was talking to, great points you just highlighted, Judith. And I was talking to Matt the other day, right? And we were talking about the fiber that that exists in many cities. I think Matt has a lot of opinions about what we could do, regarding the digital divide. So Matt, what are you thinking?
So our organization isn't directly involved, because it's not right center and in the pit. However, both from my time in Santa Fe, because I was in charge of telecommunications from economic development in Santa Fe, as well as with going here, I toss out a couple ideas. One is that we should, I would love to see mobile hotspots, all right, purchased and provided to every family who does not have internet access, broadband internet access, and have it be subsidized to a point where it's free. So, because that's using the cellular system rather than the fiber system, and is an immediate way of getting access in the home for bridging the digital divide. So that would be part one. That would be complementary to everything that Judy said about having locations like libraries and cafes and places like that people can congregate and go to. But we really have to get it into every home. Number two is that I think we need to have digital literacy taught in every classroom, starting at probably around, let's see, minimum age 11. So it should be an ongoing piece of education that never ends, because technology keeps changing. And so the literacy around technology will continue to change. And in fact, it changes faster and in a more complex way as you go out in the future. It is unrealistic to expect parents, grandparents, anyone to actually take on that responsibility to actually educate digital literacy. So that would be part 2 of something I'd like to see happen. Part 3 is that you alluded to it. Thanks for the setup. And you can tell more about this, but I learned recently that the city owns, it has laid in the ground and overhead. I'm guessing it's going to be in the thousands of miles. It's certainly hundreds of miles of fiber optics all around our city, and we are unable to use it because of a state law that restricts the city's use of the fiber it owns to, I think, education and some other sort of limited public benefits. And other states don't have this. New Mexico does not have this. So it is something that I'm guessing the telecom providers advocated and got this restriction because it provides them more of a monopolistic control over fiber optics, and that is to the detriment of all the residents, and worse of all to low income and middle income families and individuals. They're hurt the worst. And then the fourth thing I would say, and this is a capital investment and this is a bond, but we did do this in Santa Fe, is that we purchased and outfitted for every single student. We had Chromebooks, or an analog for every student in every school. So rather than giving it to the families, you actually keep it in the schools, and that way you can be assured that every student has a device. But once the student graduates, right, they're not taking a device with them because you really have to kind of recycle that. And so it meant when this happened in Santa Fe, when COVID hit, I talked to my colleagues there, they had kids back home up and running within days, because not only did they have this equipment, the school had already invested in programming, education, homework assistance, all those things. Those were already in play, because we actually had a bunch of students already who were having challenges getting to school, right, to learn on the school's time. So we need to do that here, because I think the future is a combination of coming to places to learn, in this case, right, or to work, and also doing that in a distributed way. And so we need to make that investment. So those are my 4 ideas.
Great points, and it has to do with what Judith mentioned, right? That blend, right? I think it's true. It's true. Yeah, and I just want to make sure that is Ramiro by any chance online, maybe under a different name? Okay, I guess that's a no. Okay, we'll wait on him, if he reconnects. But there's a question from Taylor Watson. The question is, Judy, so what engagement strategies have you found to be most effective in helping your members overcome some of the mental and organizational obstacles they have been in making those changes, changes to becoming digital? So what do you think are some of the strategies, engagement strategies to help and support these businesses make that transition to becoming more digital?
Yes. That's where I go back to this training and the workshops, and frankly, prior, as we were getting this set up, we part of our curriculum had been for our Échale Gas small business was digital marketing, social media. We were already in that space to try to, and this is all partnering. We're not the teachers, we're the facilitators. We bring in experts and bring them to Southside locations. That's what distinguishes us, so I'm always open for that expertise and to host it here on the South Side. That's what we had been doing. And then obviously all of this hit. And so I am having to also just build capacity myself because we've been partnering with Launch SA, we partnered with UTSA on webinar type activity. And right now, I'll just bluntly say, we've been really focused on getting these grant funds into the hands of small businesses. So that's our current activity. But for this in the future, because this forward is not going to go away by any means. It is part of the new dynamic. I don't want to say normal because I don't know what normal is anymore, but I do the new dynamic of how we do business and having to have that connectivity. So my intent is to reach out to we're not a membership organization. We basically have people that have signed up to communicate with us. As far as Southside First, the small businesses of the San Antonio's and Bexar County, actually Southside, and to keep connected with them, to offer these and to look at just different parts of the South Side, and if we could do some gatherings still within the COVID dynamic of small venues and such, that's okay. I have to use whatever I can. I also work through though the neighborhood associations. And that has been crucial for us because they've become a wonderful trusted partner. They've got, and they're already kind of in a smaller organization size that's manageable for this kind of training. So that's part of my thought process as to sort of some of these next steps in getting that connectivity and options to the small businesses along with the residents that are in these neighborhoods, and then they can all feeds on each other. Because, just the idea of even starting, think about how we're now, quote, Zoom experts, I suppose, for those of us who were not involved in it in the past. I wasn't, but I know how to connect to this now. It's going to be part of the tools that we're going to be relying upon here to get people connect and stay connected.
Definitely. And I just wanted to mention that because Ramiro is currently dropped out of the meeting right now, but he mentioned something that was really interesting to address Taylor's question about the same blend that you talked about, Judy, and he talked about it in our last call, but was about how he had block walkers, so he had a grassroots strategy, actually going from home to home to promote some of the initiatives to go from that analog to online, right? And that was really interesting, right? And the folks that did not have the ability to go online, well, they were recorded, right? They had a documentation process where they identify those folks that were not online or did not have access to digital, right? So then they went back to them, to try and support them in any way that they could, with the Westside Development Corporation. And so that's an interesting blend, right? He applied the grassroots block walking, literally going from business to business, exploring, what were some of the challenges in digital, right? And also pushing that through online mediums. And that, I thought that was really, it was unique in its design. I'm an organizer. I've organized campaigns, and so I know that at the end of the day, the grassroots movement really matters. And I think what he was able to do there was interesting. Of course, I know that right now that campaign is suspended because of COVID-19, but that was an interesting blend that I wanted to touch on in regards to the Westside Development Corporation. Matt, I think, yeah, go ahead.
Just a couple others from my past. Judy touched on this, but trusted partners. So a key strategy is to find out who the organizations or even the influencers are that are in the community, and then work through them, right? Because they already have the trust. So that's a strategy to overcome, because I think one of the questions is a psychological barrier, and one is, I don't trust you. So it might take 2 years to build trust, or you work with someone who is already trusted. So that'd be part one. And we did a lot of that. in Santa Fe. The Santa Fe Community Foundation did something very cool. Is that they spearheaded a piece of work that was birth to career. It was literally the entire trajectory of someone's life, like through education and into their work. And the way they did that eventually is they broke it into 13 steps, and then they pulled together all of the agencies. So it was government, philanthropy, non-profit, and for-profit, and they created these alliances at each stage, and then those groups would work together to achieve the goals of that stage, essentially handing that young kid to teenage, to their first internship, to their get into college, get their 2-year associate, 4-year, get their first internship, get their first job. So that's another strategy and a piece of work that could be. It's a bigger piece of work, but for the long view, that would be really great. And then I've seen in some other cities, there's programs that have been built for youth to train and introduce digital technology to parents, or mostly grandparents. And it's really it's often done like through schools, and so like schools and then like nursing homes or assisted living facilities, but everyone wins. Like the kids, like, I didn't know these people didn't know this stuff. So they're like, they feel really smart, right? Because they're like, they're teaching, these, and the older people, and not to be ageist like you, but like they're like, hey, I didn't know this stuff. This is super cool, like helpful. So I think that's like a really wonderful, also like set of programs. And there's lots of them out there. So if people want to look, if Taylor wants to look, there's some of those things will be out there that you might be able to find. And then the last thing is we're going to start piloting something called Community Navigator, which is similar to just what you were just describing. This comes out of Albuquerque, and essentially you outfit people, you train these people to be able to do I call it business 101 audit. And they introduce themselves. They is walking down the street, right, to every Main Street business and going, hey, I'm here. We could help you kind of like, can we do a little diagnosis of your business? Like, how's it going? And then and based on what you learn, then you can provide them with resources, tools, access to resources. And when they started this in Albuquerque, they found out something like 2/3 of all those Main Street businesses had zero financial management tool. And consequently, it's zero financial management, period, right? It was all cash flow, cash in, cash out. And so when they found that, they got huge uptake on businesses going like, oh, wait, what? Like there's QuickBooks? Like, what's that? Okay, they get installed, like do a basic training of like cash flow, how to, manage your inventory. And so it was a very concrete way of getting out on the street and helping people understand help them. They reveal like what's their situation, what are their priorities, and then give them some solutions. And we did that. Even we tied that to website workshops. So we would take small business owners and you're like, you don't have a website, we'll build you a website. And like we would like we go to their store and be like, okay, let's set up the computer and let's build you a website like together right now. So I think it's layering in more examples of this blend. But I think what Judy said and what you said and what Ramiro said is you have to go to where people are. It's just
that's right.
Like asking people to go to come to us. I don't know. I bet we get 1 out of 1,000. Like whatever it is. It's a very small number of people that can do that. I mean, you're working. It's your company. Exactly. Like if you're not working,
they don't have time.
They don't have time to, you work. Exactly. You might have some kids. You might have you don't have a life. Like you don't have time to go to take a class a half hour away for 4 hours. Like that doesn't work for most people.
Yeah. I like that. I mean, I think, I think when Ramiro mentioned it, it makes sense, right? And you just mentioned it, right, Matt? I mean, people are busy. They're doing their things. They have busy lives. And as entrepreneurs or business owners, the last thing that you have time for is to go to a digital inclusion class, right? So, so I think that blend really works, right? I mean, I think, of course, we have some of the challenges right now with COVID, but I think there's a way to better organize, business owners and to get them on board on these digital mediums. Talking about digital mediums, right? Something that is new also to, right now to cities is the opportunity zones, right? So, there's a lot of talk about opportunity zones, but I wanted to learn to see if opportunity zones are having some impact in your communities? And if so, how does it look like, right? That access to capital that Judy talked about, right? It's very important, right? And so the premise, right, is that these opportunity zones will create, investment vehicles that would allow, small businesses that are located geographically in these zones to receive investment a lot faster because of the incentives that investors have, right, in investing in these areas, right, these regions. A lot of the money, a lot of the investment has been funneled, to real estate. So I want to learn more if there's, maybe some examples of small businesses that have received some sort of investment, or what are some of the real estate deals that you've learned that have been funneled through this vehicle of investment. At the end of the day, I think people are curious to know how these opportunity zones are impacting your communities.
Okay, well, and so Beto, there are 24 zones in Bexar County. So here we're speaking about
Wow.
census tracts. Going back to, okay, I had to say it, equity. Remember, what all that has to do with. Opportunity zone areas are areas of need. You've got lower income population. You've got too often a lack of investment, and therefore there's the rest of the story. In Bexar County, of those 24, 13 of those census tracts are on the south side. So having said that, this is a program that was geared towards the tax bill 2017, the tax reform bill of this administration. And so the opportunity zone effort, was derived from that. I have been a part of various convenings since I've been on board since the 1st of January 2019. I serve on the with the city of San Antonio. There's an advisory group because of the various sectors or quadrants of our community, place-based areas. And so I've been a part of these convenings. So on the positive note, frankly, what it's done has been to bring people together back when you could do that. Okay, remember, back when you could do that. There was the two areas that I mentioned that I had been working with the most closely, both Mission San Jose and Quintana. They're both opportunity zone areas, and I actually will be. I'm on a contract with the city of San Antonio to do an action plan that will link that opportunity zone to just not just rely on the I'm going to call it the strict tax bill based requirements. I'm not saying we're going to disregard it, but the way I see it, just pay attention to the fact that it exists and what more can we do. I'm going to use the term value add to bring in other resources that perhaps could have movement more quickly into these areas. I'm not trying to avoid, but that's what's happened since COVID. We were on a path on this effort regarding the with the city, and it's paused because of the immediate need right now. We're coming back with it. So I view this as part of our recovery here in San Antonio, and that's an effort that we're doing on the south side. I'm sorry, Ramiro, I don't think he's on the call at the moment yet, but Westside, and I used to attend some of their meetings last year with his predecessor, because Westside had already been doing some of this work as well too, but they too were calling upon, I'm going to call it convenings. Again, 2019 was a different year. So we're going to, opportunity zones need to be also refreshed, and we've got to think differently to see how we're going to utilize this tool, because it exists, it's there, and we've got to figure out other ways. But the way I'm looking at it in the more immediate stuff is if I can get this survey work going within Quintana and Mission with the city of San Antonio, then we can spur other activity. Just get one thing going, and then it'll start to take off again. And that'll be a signal to help us with business, because
Definitely.
since we've got to face the facts of what's happening right now, and how do we figure out another way to re-energize business activity. I'm going to use it as a platform, Beto, is how I see it, and just
Definitely.
take advantage of the fact that it exists.
Definitely. So I know that Ramiro's not here with us right now. He stepped out, but if you go to his website, you're gonna learn a lot about what the Westside Development Corporation is doing with the opportunity zones. I'll plug in the website right now, so the audience can log in. But they're doing a lot of work and pushing a lot of efforts forward regarding OCs. Matt, what are your thoughts regarding opportunity zones, and what are they? How are they impacting downtown San Antonio? I know that the tech district, it's in an opportunity zone.
We
I
have
know
one
because
right
I
now.
was out. Yeah, there you go. I was looking into it. So I
Part of
know
the
that
pitch.
that's So tell us more about what. And there you go. I think Ramiro's back. There you go. Hey, Ramiro.
So I'll
Welcome
go quick,
back.
and then hopefully Ramiro will know more. But I don't have up-to-date information. So apologies, I just don't know. The last I heard, and last time I was thinking about this was probably about 6 months ago, and no investment had been made into companies, right? Because you have multiple ways of making investments. Like right. Some of the big ones is real estate, and others is into equity into companies. So nothing had been done on the company side, and I didn't know of anything on the real estate side. When we were doing this, when I do talk to people about it, and when we were doing this in Santa Fe, what I heard consistently was that no one was going to do a deal because of an opportunity zone, but rather the opportunity zone was kind of cherry on the sundae, right? So if the deal pencils out and you're just close, doesn't quite pencil, the opportunity zone might be able to make it pencil out, right? Or it gives you a little bit of a nudge. So I think that's the reality of it. So I say that on the real estate side. I think that I can just speak for myself. I don't know who's doing it downtown, but certainly Centro hasn't taken an active role in marketing. And one of my board members commented, he just thinks that most people think it's just a real estate investment opportunity. They don't even know that the private equity side is available. So I think that's an opportunity. And then where my head's at, I guess, with downtown, and this actually, because you've asked this question, I'm like, damn it, I have to put that on my list to get back onto my focus. But my strategy, it may be similar to Judys, but mine is identify shovel-ready deals and market them.
There you go.
Because that's what we were really doing. We did that excellently in New Mexico. And what you really want to do, what I would want to do is it's a shovel-ready deal, and what is the entire financing and incentive stack adjacent to that deal? And so that when you go out to market it, because these opportunity zones, right, they're national, so you can pull money from anywhere, but you have to, if you're going to market a deal, you want to go out and go, hey, New Yorker, hey, Bostonian, here's this killer deal in San Antonio, and here's the entire state, federal, state, and local incentives and financing opportunities wrapped all around that. That's how it's become more competitive to pull the money into the opportunity zone. You just can't go out and say, hey, I got an opportunity zone. Everyone, it's sort of like everyone's got an opportunity zone. So it's really marketing the deals. So that's what I have to go figure out, is what deals are available, and start working with some people to market them.
I like that strategy. That's a smart one. I like it. So, Ramiro, welcome back. So we're talking about opportunity zones. We know that in your website, you talk a little bit about that. I know that it is a complex, environment to operate in, right? In regards to like the details of the regulations and rules that are always updating. And now, of course, with COVID-19, things are changing. But Ramiro, can you tell us a little bit about how these opportunity zones are impacting the West Side, right? And how is going to benefit the development of more investment in, let's say, for example, real estate deals or small businesses?
Sure. So I think I think Matt was absolutely right, is that, deals aren't going to happen because of the opportunity zone. It just might make some marginal deals make more sense. Unfortunately, what's happened is that, and it's even from a redevelopment standpoint, opportunity zones right now, the way that is written is that it makes more sense for a ground up project in order for it to hit all the necessary or check all the necessary boxes for it to really qualify as an opportunity zone project. So what you see instead are people who would normally run funds anyway, raising a fund specifically for an opportunity zone project, but still looking to get those same kind of returns that they normally would get, but now they can offer more on the back end to the investor. So unfortunately, you don't see this reaching down into the community of other projects that otherwise would not happen. You just see projects that are probably a little bit more, again, those marginal deals happening, or profitable deals getting a bigger margin, unfortunately. What I'd love to see is some of our CDCs and EDCs starting to put together our own fund and invite investment. And then that way we can be investing into the projects that are happening around us, because we're not looking for a 12% investment to the fund plus another 9% to the investor. We don't need that. We'd be happy if the projects just happen. So that's what I would love.
Me up for that. Wait, I want to be on your team for that one right there. It's a social impact investing group. Let's build that. I'm all.
I love it.
I've had lots of conversations in the past 2 years about people who are dying for those kinds of investments, Matt, and they just don't exist right now in the private sector because they don't make sense to do. But there is a huge demand for it. And once we can figure out how to get around certain, and crowdfunding may be part of the answer, but once we can actually figure out how to put a fund together that makes sense, and you can get accredited investors in there, and we can make sure that we are in compliance with blue sky laws, I think there's a massive opportunity there for us as community builders to be able to invest directly into projects that otherwise would never see investment. And there's so many of them that they just need that little 10% of equity, 15% of equity to make an amazing project happen. And so I think where you're going to see opportunity zones, if they ever do really reach down into the community, it's going to be a community driven project, usually, because the project will start first, and maybe you can raise some funds and leverage the fact that it's not in an opportunity zone, which, by the way, that's exactly kind of what we have. We have the Bacilla Frox building at Zarzamora and Martin. We bought about 1.5 years ago. Our goal, we're actually putting together an RFP right now, which we'll be putting out. And it's about a 10,000 square foot building. Used to be a garment factory way back in the 30s. Amazing history. You've got to see this building. And we're going to be turning it into like a small business hub. That's going to be, small business space, co-working space. We have a lender who wants to be in the West Side working with these small businesses. So putting that together right now, that RFP should be coming out in about 2 weeks, and it is in an opportunity zone. So we want to leverage the heck out of that and see what we can do to even invite, if I have to step up and create a fund from WDC, we're going to do that. And I'm specifically going to leverage the fact that it's in an opportunity zone. So I think that's where there is, I hate saying opportunities so much when you're talking about opportunity zone. But I mean, that is the opportunity, I think, is when it's going to be community driven.
I love it. I love it. I'm on board. I love the idea. So we're running, close to, the time frame that we have allocated for this panel. But I wanted to ask you one final question, right, before closing statements. And the question is what does resilience mean to you, right? And how does it look like in your communities? Let's start with you, Judy.
Yes, resilience is just that. It's las ganas. What's as you were the goals, the las metas. Where are you focused? Where are you going? And even if under these circumstances like COVID, the more recent situation, I am from the crowd that remembers 10 years ago when we were in another recession. I do remember that very well. And we went through a downturn in this country, and we came back again. And here, obviously, the different tone is the fact that it's health related, because there is that that pressure, that gamble that people believe that they're making in going beyond, sheltering from home. So that's a different aspect of our psyche. But we too, as a people, we're steadfast. We are not just survivors, we're thrivers. We're thrivers. And so, having said that, and talking to some of these businesses right now that we've been helping with this grant program, is people are knocking on our door. They're finding out, these little bit of funds that were, if it's 10,000 or 25,000 under a current program that we're operating, as is Ramiro. That's when you get these stories of what people are doing right now, what they did. Many saying, we went into our savings. Many, let's go back to just the hardcore aspect of small business and what it takes. This is not a complete rosy path. There are those downturns of which is happening right now. And so people are trying to figure out ways, and that's making them reach out. It's up to organizations like ours and the partnering that we're doing here with Launch SA and this effort, and my colleagues on this call, and with you, Beto, to see how can we take this further, and not disconnect, because that is how the resilience, to me, we support the resilience. That the mindset is already there. People took that step a long time ago. I talked to a business today, inherited business from the 1970s, from father to daughter. And now she's got her daughter in the business. Remember I said to you, Southside, multiple family-owned businesses. So that resilience, that steadfastness, the raíces, the roots are already established here. Let's not lose that. And I think that's where these, all of us as resources and facilitators, we've got to come together and support these businesses. But that's what I am seeing. But the mindset has been holding on. It's been positive, and people are reaching out. It's time for us it's more than enough time for us to pull in, to bring people in and help them with some answers. And I look forward to these continued partnerships we've got with Bexar County, City of San Antonio, and other private sector. I do want to say that as well too, regarding drawing to some of the resources to the really small micro businesses that are predominant, certainly here on the South Side.
Amazing. I think you pretty much answered the question for everyone. And so I want to jump to another question before we run out of time. Why should entrepreneurs start their businesses in the West Side, Ramiro?
Why should they start it on the West Side? Because it's the best side of town. Look, I'm sorry.
I know, nice. That was like a setup for competition. No, it's the middle.
I'm gonna make sure there's no time for anyone else to answer this question.
It's definitely not the East Side. Forget the East Side. They're not even here to defend themselves.
Yeah, the culture on the West Side is amazing. One of these, we recently did a block walking effort, and one of the business owners literally grabbed one of our volunteers by the hand and dragged them down the little strip center and made them talk to their other friend, the business owner, because they wanted to make sure that they knew about the resources so that they would succeed. That is the community that you get on the West Side, where we not only want to see you succeed, we're going to be pissed off if you don't, okay? We're going to be, it is that stubbornness that has made these businesses successful to date.
I love it.
Because you look at the way that things have gone down in our past history, the past 60 or 80 years, they started the race, 50 years later than everyone started. It is the stubbornness that has gotten them through. And it's the stubbornness that will get them through today. And the same kind of determination and tenacity that they will also kind of draw out of their fellow small business owners on the West Side.
Amazing. Well, I'm sorry, Matt, we ran out of time.
Darn.
I'm kidding.
As you should.
I'm kidding. Matt, why should an entrepreneur start their business in downtown? I started my business in downtown. So, but I'll let you answer that.
Why don't you answer that question?
No, I'll let you answer it.
I think there's, I'll come up with three things. So one is just another way of saying what Ramiro said, which is if downtown is like your vibe, like that's like, you know, like you dig downtown and like living like what it has to offer, right? Then this is the place for you. So part of it's like, do you dig it? Like, do you like walking around? Like, is that the park you like? You know, like, does it have the food you like? I mean, so I think that part of it is because when entrepreneurs are starting, right? Like, if you have the opportunity to kind of really start anywhere around town, that's one big sort of driver. Two is that there is power in clusters. So if you want to be in finance, you should be downtown, right? If you want to be in insurance, you should be downtown. You want to be in the tech corridor, you should be downtown. You want to be in the food sector, you should be downtown. So the more you are in these clusters, the greater the strength of that cluster becomes. So the whole boat starts to rise, right? And then I think the main third thing would be diversity. I've read about the confluence of cultures, and I think downtown's just it's a kind of almost like a natural advantage that downtowns have. I mean, we're the seat of government, right? We're the seat of some international corporations. UTSA, right? They are literally bridging from the west side to downtown and bringing in another 10,000 students who will come from around the world, right? So downtowns tend to have that as an advantage, that the collisions, the spontaneity that comes from diversity is an advantage for certain kinds of companies and certain kinds of entrepreneurs. So those are three reasons to come downtown, but I don't want those reasons to be reasons not to actually start a company on the west side or the south side. So like my first one's the main one, which is like, hey, like, is this your vibe? Is this your jam? Is this the thing you want? Like, do it there. Like, maybe come over and visit downtown. You know, we'd love to have you here.
Definitely. Thank you, Matt. Those are great points. And you know, I just want to finalize that question with Judy. You know, I visit the South Side often. You know, I mean, I like San Antonio as a whole. I love it, you know, and as an entrepreneur, I stay here in San Antonio because I think it offers a lot of opportunity for anyone that wants to start a business, right? So Judy, why start a business in the South Side?
Well, you know, I have to take some cues from my colleagues who've talked about some of the assets, and I had not discussed the fact that we've got obviously the Brooks campus, that area, which has become its own marker, a strong one here on the South Side, and the you know, using the past and the bases, the military installations, and then to make them redeveloped, and now spurring the various hubs within the South Side. So we've got that, we've got Brooks, and then if you head further south, of course, Texas A&M San Antonio and what's coming around there, and the foresight of, Frank Madla, former, que en paz descanse, he passed away, but, was part of that whole effort to get Texas A&M San Antonio on the map, and it's happening. So that's a tremendous hub that's coming around. Palo Alto, I'm a big supporter of theirs because that's a very community geared. They were already doing digital classes prior to everybody else having to pivot. Something that I learned, who knew? And then you go further west, southwest, and of course, Port San Antonio, and the dynamism that is coming from that effort. So, and then you think about, the fact that Toyota and that what's coming around with Navistar, that big hub that started really more 20 years ago. So all of these hubs are percolating, but I draw myself to the small businesses because that's where the people are. And those are the jobs. That's where people can work closer from home and truly make a difference. And frankly, that's where the job production has been here too, has been in that combination of those hubs along with the small businesses. So there are markets to tap into, and it goes all the way to the Bexar County line, because you've got, like I'd said earlier, quite a bit of land that is available, for new ventures. And also, I did like the point that was made earlier, infill. We've got spaces around the community that would be great locations along the Roosevelt corridor that's being updated. I mentioned to you about Southwest Military Highway and some of the other, South Flores, Nogalitos, areas where there are existing corridors that will always need some sort of they'll need that support as well too. There's a lot to be stated regarding Southside opportunities.
Great. I want to thank the panelists, for this opportunity to talk to them. They are doing amazing work here in San Antonio. They are true leaders that love their city. And I have a question. If the audience members want to reach out to you, how can they contact you? Ramiro, let's start with you.
So we do have a Westside Small Business Helpline. That's also one way that if they are a business that's looking for help, that number is 210-598-8482, and I'll put it in the mat. I saw Matt's email just.
Oh, I beat you.
You got me.
It's a competition.
I'll put it in the chat as well. But yeah, they can get me on my email, which is ramiro@westsidedevcorp.com. I'll put it up there as well. And then of course our office line, which is 501-0192. So we'll put it up there as well. But I look forward to talking to anybody who'd love to talk.
Amazing. I saw that Judy also put her email there, and Matt. So this pretty much wraps, the call today. Please make sure that, for the audience members watching us at home or on the recorded line, give us some feedback on the link that was provided by Taylor. And, again, if you have any ideas, any comments about this panel, or you want to learn more, also reach out to the Launch SA team, and they'll put you in contact with all of us. So thank you, everyone. And I hope that you enjoyed today's panel.
Hey, Beto, thank you so much for hosting us. Really, you did great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Judy.
Adios.
Thank you, Ramiro.